It's paradise inside of our hearts, and it feels so nice to pray in the dark. Beings of light, see who you are. 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 See who you are.
Wow, I just muted myself and I did that to me. Anyways, here we are. Welcome to Divine Encounters. This is live TV. I am your hostess, the Oracle of Apollo, TV show host, medium, multidimensional trance medium at that. If you're wondering, Reiki coach, master teacher, integrated energy therapy, master instructor, blah, 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 blah. It's season 4. If you haven't been here, just catch up. So today's show is about a supernatural story time. So excited. This is a fun show. We're here to explore, be curious, maybe even instigate and prod into things that we've never understood before, all while opening ourselves to new horizons and new opportunities. So if that is for you, make sure you're sticking around. And if you have a supernatural story time that you would like to share here on the E360 TV Network Trajectory TV channel, please email me, divineencounters@e360tvlive.com. We're going to be changing out of StreamYard in the next week or so. So Divine Encounters is going to be being produced a little bit differently. So just be on the lookout for that. I can't really divulge what we're going to be changing, but just expect it so you're not so shocked when we come back and everything's all fresh and so clean. All right, so if this is your first time, welcome. Make sure you click wherever you are watching this, wherever you're live streaming this. Make sure you're liking, subscribing, following. I'm live streaming every single Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Eastern time and Sunday p.m. at 7 p.m. Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. I don't know where the English is today. Maybe I was practicing too much Romanian and Duolingo. That's probably what's happening. Anyways, so every Wednesday night we are doing a supernatural story time, and Sunday nights we're doing all of your horoscopes. So we have a new guest today, and we're going to be bringing him on. And so give your hearts and your love. And if you're watching this on the replay, which we know you are, #Seeker. Okay, so where is he? He's probably over there channeling vortexes or making sigils. I don't know. Man, Luka, just get over here.
Hello.
So you actually arrived, and I'm trying to find where the portal's at.
It's all around you and all inside you.
Well, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
So I'm going to let you introduce yourself to our beautiful, warm audience, wherever they are at in the world, and just tell them a little bit about who you are and what you don't go into anything else.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Luka. Birth name Ryan, but I've recently, through TikTok endeavors, have changed my name to my stage alias, which is Luka. I am currently a tarot reader, but on top of being a tarot reader, I'm a spiritual advisor, psychic medium, and a musician since birth. Essentially, I've always heard music and felt music in my soul. So I'm currently in the process in my life of learning how to take my music and spirituality and combine them into one thing. So I've been learning how to, over the last few years, discovering that one of my gifts is I can channel the spirit world and spirit, whatever the spiritual dimension means to you. I channel that through music. So I go by self-entitled, not entitled, self-titled frequency magician is what I like to call it.
Nice. And you know, before I even read that you put frequency magician, when I had tagged you, I had put it as the magician. And that was before I even knew that that you self-titled yourself.
So you just channeled that in. That's awesome.
Oh, shock and awe.
Oh, yeah, you kind of blew my mind the other day with all the channeling you were doing. It's pretty intense, but exciting. I don't meet a lot of people that channel as well. So,
oh, well, that was so exciting that this is why we are here today on the
absolutely.
show. So we're going to be doing, I'd like to start off every single episode with I like to call is the good news. And this is basically using numerology to give the collective a reading. All the excitement. Yay! All right, so let me pop this up there so you guys can go ahead at home and know where the bookmark is. 1 second. I'm usually more expedient with this, but today it must have been from the polling yesterday. We worked 14 hours at the election, so I didn't really sleep at all. All right, we're good now. Here's the bookmark. Okay, so that'll say what's good. All righty, so here we have Angel 726. So the number Angel 726 is a blend of the attributes of the number 7, the vibrations of the number 2, and the energies of the number 6. Number 7 is the number of knowledge and understanding, discernment and listening to the inner self, spiritual development and awakening, learning and educating, determination, persistence and purpose, mysticism, psychic abilities, and spiritual gifts. Number 2 deals with relationships, balance, harmony, dualities, partnerships and relationships of all kinds, personal will, decisiveness, insightfulness, ambition, diplomacy, mediation, and sensitivity. So your life mission and soul purpose, all entwined into the number 2, the self and the higher self. Number 6 is associated with home and family, domesticity, expressing grace, expressing grace and gratitude, service to others and selflessness, responsibility and reliability, providing for the self and others, care and nurturing, and finding solutions. So, the angel number 726 brings a message of love, encouragement, and support from your angels. Trust that your everyday material and monetary needs will be met as you persistently journey along your life path, living your soul purpose and destiny. The determination and diligence you have devoted to living a consciously balanced and centered life has manifested, and continued supply of positive abundance is coming into your life. I love this, ensuring that you are sustained and maintained throughout your daily life. Trust that you and your loved ones are safe and protected. Angel 726 encourages you to be positive and optimistic about the material aspects of your life. Your positive affirmations and optimistic attitude, as well as your faith and trust in the universal energies. And this will ensure that all of your needs will be met in the divine right time. The angel lifting your energies and vibrations and encouraging you to accept good into your life in whatever manner it presents. So, lesson of the day, use your life for the highest good. Alrighty. What are you feeling about the message for today? And does any of this resonate with you?
It all completely resonates, especially the fact that it starts with the number 7. The message felt very resonant to me, I guess. Like, it almost felt like a message for me to a degree, as it is for everybody. But Seven's just a number that followed me my whole entire life, and that's kind of, as I was saying before we got on here, like just seemingly this week. Recently, I've been feeling things shifting for me, but recently this week, I'm really seeing things like really come together and being forced to like let go when like negative mindsets come through. Like my angels like telling me to relax, take a breath, let it go, and to trust in the process. And so it definitely very much aligns with where I'm at right now, as I'm sure it probably resonates with most of the collective too.
Yeah. Well, what I'm finding cosmic humor in is when you texted me earlier, what did I tell you? I was like,
Yeah,
my
seven.
alarm was set because I made eggs. I made soft boiled eggs, and my alarm was set for the perfect egg. And if you didn't know what that was, it's 7 minutes, ladies and gentlemen.
Boom. Did you have the angel number picked out before that happened?
No, I picked it out
Interesting.
like 3 minutes before we came on.
Oh, okay, word. I was
So
gonna
that's
say, yeah, 'cause
funny.
they're very interesting.
And I said it too. I was like, that was like, it was like exact second. Like the Siri went off at the same exact time as your text came through. So it was like a clock sound and the ping sound at the same. It was like, "Cling." I was like, oh, that's weird. What's that?
Yeah,
And
that's
then we
wild
came
because
on.
seven's been a number that's followed me like my whole life, especially the last couple of years. And I literally woke up from a nap. I was like, oh, like jumped up from my nap and immediately texted you and checked the time. So it was like the perfect timing, I guess.
That's cool. Seven's my number too, but I mean, Apollo. So 7.
Boom.
All right. Sure. We're going to jump into our mindfulness moment. And for those of you at home who don't know what a mindfulness moment is, this is a beautiful tool to implement any time of day. Because if you don't have one moment to be mindful, then what kind of life are you living? There's a lot of questions that have to be asked around this. So, all right, we're going to give you a skill set today. Now, I want to call you Luka because I feel like that has more power than your birth name.
Hmm.
And with that being said, what we're going to do now is we're going to check in. So we're going to do self check in. So from 1 to 10, 1 being this is the least amount of energy you can have, 10, the most amount of energy you can have in your body. You're going to do check in, and you guys at home, and you're going to let me know in the comment section below, and you'll find out what Luca's answer is. So where are you at energetically? Put it in the comment section below. And if there's a feeling word, I want to know. Share it. Safe space here. Let's go. Okay. I'm going to share my number. I'm going to say my number is a 7.2. And I think that's pretty spectacular for today. So my feeling word is relaxed. How about you,
That's
sir?
not bad. Um, I was thinking around 7, probably maybe more on like the 6.7, 6.8 like scale. Not in a
Yeah,
bad way, but like I get like I think it's just because I'm still waking up a little bit from being up like all night last night and making music. My energy last night I was at like a 10. I was telling you the other day when I'm like playing guitar and making music, that's where I'm like peak energy levels, and then I take cat naps, so I'm still kind of slowly but surely reaching my levels, if that makes sense.
yes. My full state of awakeness
Yeah.
impending. All right.
Usually like
So
10, 11 p.m. is when I like kind of really am fully like awake, and that's like where I'm like where some people 6, 7 in the morning they're like up and going. I'm not a morning person, definitely a night owl.
same. I totally get it. So we're going to be jumping into this mindfulness moment. And what we're going to do as a collective, Luca, is we are going to breathe as a collective into any tension that we find in our body. And we're just going to be present. And then when we come back, we're going to share what has shifted inside of us. This is why we ask for a feeling word and a number before we jump in. So it keeps control of the experience. And then we can see why this is something that we can do that is positive, because you're going to get an instant view of how you shifted. So here we go. 60 seconds on the clock. Luca, your eyes are closed, and everybody in the collective. And I'll invite you back after the 60 seconds. Okay, 60 seconds on the clock. And we're all going to just take a nice deep breath here. All the way into the lowest part of the abdomen. Sinking into yourself with no expectation into the deepest part of your being. Breathing into any noticeable tension as taking your focus. Let that go. Feeling yourself calming into center, calming into homeostasis. And just give yourself a moment of gratitude here. Thank you for making this moment and co-creating something beautiful to align coherence. An invitation back to self now, and gently opening your eyes and coming back into the collective space. How are you feeling? Any feelings, sensations, colors, memories, resistances?
Me personally,
Mm-hmm.
good actually. So I'm at my studio currently, and I don't know if you could hear it. That's why I covered the mic for a second. But somebody just showed up down the hall, started playing the drums right before we went into that, and I was like, oh no, I hope it's not gonna I got nervous and a little bit anxious. I was like, no, don't be super loud. And then immediately I took that breath and was like, wait, I can control my surrounding environment. And then the drums went away, and I was like, hey. So feeling good about that. If you hear noises in the background, not they shouldn't be too loud, but if you hear them occasionally, it's because there's other studios around me. So
I didn't hear anything.
Okay, good. That's what I was worried about. I was like, oh, because it was pretty loud for me.
I get worried about that too, because the house is housing right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's okay if you're invested into the conversation. All the background noise is that just background noise.
Absolutely, yeah.
So did your number shift? And if it did, what's your number now?
It's at it went up at least one. It's at 7.8 to 8 now for sure.
Nice. Mm-hmm. I am at a 8.2, and I feel content. Excited is not the right word. It's like when you hear really nice sound and it stays consistent all across the board. And I don't want to say flatline, because that's the mind goes somewhere completely else. So I'm just going to say resonance. That's the word I'm just going to go with.
That's a great word. That's one of my favorite words in in language is resonance.
It's interesting that you have favorite words in the language. Do you speak other languages?
No, not really. Sort of ish. I can kind of speak a little bit of things Spanish, I think, and I know some words and French and German. That's just from high school. I was terrible at school. I didn't pay attention much. I would like to learn more languages, especially if I plan on traveling the world with music. It's definitely something I want to get into, but I speak the language of the universe with music.
That's it. The language of the universe.
Yeah.
I speak the same language, but with energy. We're going to get into your supernatural story time in just a moment, but I will say I have been to a lot of places in the world, and with absolute strangers and not being able to talk and doing healings in the middle of the street and in places just by an approach without having to speak at all. So there are definitely languages beyond the formal.
Yeah. I'm very fascinated by that concept where you don't necessarily have to understand the physical language that somebody's speaking, but you can feel their energy and you can read body language and such. And it's a very fascinating topic.
It is, because I pointed at this one guy and then I went, ow, ow. And then he just looked at me and he started speaking, and I'm like, and then I just kind of went like this, and then he kind of just looked, and then he just stayed. And then, I touched him and I gave him some energy work, and it was beautiful. I got a hug at the end. It was such a beautiful moment. Who knows what happened? I don't know.
Yeah. Probably totally threw him off. He's probably what is going on?
That's my whole life though.
Yeah.
I'm like the storm. I just come in, thunder blazing, man.
Kalima energy.
For real.
Yeah.
You ain't never lie. You ain't never lie. And it's beautiful. I love it. It feeds my soul. to all my soul. All right, we're going to jump right into this supernatural story time just after this very quick message from Trajectory Kids. Let's go. And we're back to Divine Encounters. I am your show host, Dominique Rivera, the Oracle of Apollo. Here where we bring supernatural experiences to inspire, motivate you, and maybe just give you into a glimpse of a world that exists within the world that we just don't see with our eyes. So please welcome my guest, Luka, back on the show as we journey into what may seem impossible and make it absolutely possible. So, Luka, you want to start from once upon a time.
Sure. And feel free to like prompt me and ask certain questions along the way. That'll help me because there's so much that's gone on that like really goes with the story. So
So start off where your heart wants to speak from.
Birth.
Okay.
So when I was born, I actually am a twin. I have a twin brother. I was born November 16th, 1995 in Lansdale, Pennsylvania, which is just outside Philly. And I know that you're from Philly. So I was born as a twin. And when I was immediately born, I had I think it's pneumococcal meningitis is what it's called. It was that or meningococcal. It's a long word that I have never figured out how to pronounce properly, but essentially I had meningitis and my chances of survival were very, very low. I was sick and hospitalized for, I think, 6 weeks or 6 months. I need to clarify that with my parents. I haven't clarified. I know it's a 6. It's either weeks or months, but I was in the hospital for a very long time. And they didn't think that I was going to make it. So I was told that at the time, my family, like I grew up Christian Catholic. So religiously, they had me anointed by a priest for death. But my fighting spirit, I survived. And instead of going fully deaf in both ears or fully blind or both, I ended up only losing hearing in one ear. So from there, I was always kind of alienated. Essentially, I always had a fascination for music and a fascination, like I knew at a young age, as far back as I can remember, that I because I was told by the people around me and my parents that I was different. I also remember a lot of my childhood memories are being in audiology exams. If you've ever been in an audiology exam, you're in like that dark room and it's like the one-way mirror and they just have like frequencies just blasting in your ear with all the static. Almost sounds like a spirit box, but it's just like, and they play tones and you have to tell them like if you can hear it or not. And I just remember doing that multiple times a year for a really long time as a young kid, which was very impressionable upon my young brain. And I think that's why I focus so much on like frequencies and I'm fascinated by it now because I was kind of programmed that way to a sense to like focus on just like hearing static and chaos like around me and like hearing tones and seeking out certain sounds and whatnot. But I guess I just remember at a young age, at a certain point, I got so tired of being in there and listening to all the static, just constant, like it was just chaos, like just hearing just white noise. and beeps and stuff like that. So I would eventually learn how to tune that out. As a Scorpio, like we like to be inside of our heads. So I learned at a young age how to like kind of tune that out and turn those tones into music and make beautiful music inside of my head, which I think is what helped me kind of like access my ability to hear melody and make music. And it's something that has stuck with me my whole life. But yeah, I just always felt alienated by the world around me because of that. But when I started getting old enough to an age of wanting to explore the realm of music and wanted to play guitar, that was one of my biggest things. Like I always remember when I would hear music on the radio or something, I would hear the guitar, the electric guitar, and just like felt it just resonated. Back to the word resonance earlier, just resonated somewhere in my heart, like in my soul. Like I felt like I had memories of being on stages, like being a rock star and stuff like that, and just always dreamed of that as a kid, even though the world around me told me that I would never be able to be one because of my hearing loss. People telling me I was disabled and that I would go deaf in my other ear if I was like making loud music, and just the world around me doubting me my whole life. But something beyond me, I always had a deeper connection to, because I'm a firm believer now in my life that music and creative energy is spirit. It is what we call God. It's outside of the ego, outside of the self, the way we perceive the 3D world. So I've always had a deep connection to that spiritual energy since a kid, and always chose to tune out of what the negative people around me would tell me that I couldn't do and tune into that frequency. And eventually, as I got older, got into playing guitar. And the day that I picked up a guitar was the day that changed my life, because I just, every day after that, I would never skip school at a young age, but I would do, because I was a good kid. But if I wasn't a good kid, I would have been the one that would skip school all the time and run off in the woods and play guitar and like that. But so I would get home, and instead of doing my homework, I would just pick up a guitar and just play for hours and hours, all day, every day. And I would sing and just tune in and create, because it seemed like all the time, like just being harassed and bullied about like being deaf. People would call me deaf boy. Like I had a deaf child area sign in my neighborhood, and all the neighbor kids would like shoot paintballs at it and like make fun of me and stuff. So I was just harassed for being different as a kid, and never understood why the world was so cruel, but also had like a, say it again.
I lost you there for a second. There you are. You're back.
Oh, okay.
I feel like what I've heard time and time again from the stories, and what I feel like I've learned, is the thing that you are ostracized for when you're a child winds up being a superpower for you when you're an adult.
Truth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's that adversarial energy against the inner child is the thing that dragon that you slay in your life and become in tune with.
It becomes a point of focus.
Mm-hmm.
If you had to say, what do you feel like was the most, I don't want to say impressive, but what do you feel like is the deepest lesson, maybe that you never knew could exist within using frequency? What do you feel like is the thing that opened you up, the biggest discovery within frequency? What do you feel like that was? Maybe something that like fundamentally changed you because now you had this new understanding of this particular knowledge.
So I guess there's, my mind comes to like not two situations, but almost two perspectives of it, almost like a spiritual and a scientific perspective. Oh. So if you'd like, I can give you both.
All the perspectives. Cool. I'm Aquarius.
Love that air energy. So the spiritual perspective was because of like hearing tones, like at a young age, it's like tinnitus. I would go into my like regular everyday life, like constantly hearing this frequency. Like there was something that was beyond, because I can hear higher and lower frequency ranges than most people because my left ear has adapted. And I just always would hear this like ringing, and I would hear the world around me as growing up. People talking about like needing to protect your hearing because like tinnitus and this and that. And tinnitus is like annoying. But I think because I was so used to like having that tone like always in my ear, there was like a frequency that I could always hear. There was like a real high pitched frequency, but it also had like a resonant hum, like a vibration that I could feel like in my body. So through my process of like kind of tuning into that, instead of like thinking it was like a bad thing that I could hear that frequency, I would like tune my guitar by putting my ear against it. And it would sound like, if you ever put your like ear up to somebody's chest or something, you can hear their heartbeat, but it sounds like you're inside of them. When I put my ear up to my guitar, it sounds like I'm inside of it and like a part of it because I can't hear out of the other side.
Oh, wow.
So I become one, and I tuned my guitar growing up like through that. But so I kind of learned that like throughout my life, and this is like what I was talking about with the spiritual perspective of it, is like as I got into like studying that and I grew up, I came to like get into the scientific aspect of things, almost feeling like that's what that there was like a spiritual energy. There was something like, why do I feel this frequency that I'm hearing here too?
Sure.
Only to realize later in life now that I found out like I've reached that frequency through time spending like figuring out how to like manipulate sound. And they talk about tone, like if you think about like all the biggest musicians in the world, like you hear 5 seconds of a song like or a certain guitar player, you know it's them because they have their tone, like their sound. When I developed my sound and finally found it, it was a very spiritual moment for me in life because it felt like I finally accessed that frequency that I was hearing, and I was able to allow that to be spoke through an actual instrument and bring that into my present world. And then I saw how people reacted to that. It was almost like people like saw like something intense in me because of it. So that's where I learned that it was almost like a channel for whatever God or spirit energy is of the universe. And through
When you say intense, some people might construe that as a negative connotation. Can you expand on intensity?
I guess like it's the idea of like if you when you run into somebody and they just have a talent that's unmatched and you're almost blown away by it, intensity like that. Like there was something about my tone that I accessed and achieved through what I was studying and figuring out. And then when I finally had that moment of like figuring out what my tone was, my sound, like this resonance, and almost like the resonance and sound and feeling for me is like it feels like there's light coming out of my heart. And I have like a giant bow, like it's like the sunlight coming out of my heart, and then you can see it. And I have like a bow, like a violin bow, and I'm just like scraping against the light, and like it's the sound of like a violin essentially of like of the soul. It's kind of like the concept I go for. It's that resonance, that there's something about that friction that like that you feel it. It's like a feeling that people would experience, and it would almost like they would be speechless, like because I would never get feedback on my music after that. Like people would be either quiet about it and almost like entranced and wouldn't know how to like really respond to it. So I always thought that people didn't like it, but only to realize as I started getting on stages and playing shows like over the last like year or two, realizing that's actually a powerful thing. Like because I noticed that when I go to shows, people have their phones and they're videotaping, but people will be on their phones, and then as soon as I strum my guitar, phones go in the pockets, and they're just like just captivated, I guess is the word.
Yeah. So we had an option today because you sent me a video of something that I thought was so beautiful. I could have just had it on repeat the whole night and just let it play in the background.
I'm happy that you like it.
It was beautiful. I was captivated. So I'm wondering if you're gonna play a little bit of it for us.
I can, yeah, absolutely.
Because I think that'd be great since we're sharing about it.
I can, and I would love to. Just whenever you want me to, I will definitely.
Yeah, if you're ready now, I'm ready for you now.
Yeah, absolutely. Just give me like 20, 30 seconds. I just got to go turn on the amp and grab the guitar.
Woohoo.
Will do. I will be right back.
All right, you guys. You guys are about to get a super natural treat here because Luka, he embeds his frequencies into the music. So hopefully you guys are about to have an experience. Yeah. Make sure that you are sharing this wherever you're at in the world. Okay, you are wonderful. Exciting.
Boom, I am back.
All right.
Hath arrived. So this guitar actually, quick, if I have a minute to speak on the backstory on it.
Yeah.
This actually isn't even mine. It's a guitar that was my bass player in my current band. It's a 1984 Fender Strat. I love vintage instruments. I'm a believer that the wood in instruments, it's like they say the trees have spirits. So I'm like really connected to the earth and like the idea of earth spirits. And there's some guitars and instruments that you hear guitar players talk about. They just have mojo. There's like a soul in it.
Yeah.
This is one of those guitars. So this was actually, it was gutted in the corner of the room. And when I started this band and started jamming with these guys, and I was like, hey, there's something about that instrument that's speaking to me. Like, and I put strings on it. And like, he told me the backstory. Somebody that was passing away from cancer actually gifted it to him like the week before he died. So it was like a deep story, and they would always tell me about how much like that guitar meant to him. And I was like, hey, maybe because I call my amp the portal and all the stuff I do with it, this guitar taught me and showed me and realized like how I am a medium essentially with music. So like a lot of people after that started handing me instruments that were owned by somebody that passed away that they loved, and they don't play them anymore. So like I'm now learning that like this is like one of my gifts is I can bring those instruments to life and like allow those bring new voice to those spirits and allow them to be heard. So but this song is that I wrote, I called it Funeral of Innocence, and it's about like the feeling of going back to that point in your childhood where you went from being excited and very open-minded and optimistic about the world to where the first bad thing happened and you started realizing that the world can be dark and you have to like shield yourself. So your innocence is kind of like taken from you in a way. So it's like, that's kind of that was the concept behind this. And it almost like has that lullaby sound, but I've studied the schematics of the Egyptian pyramids because the Egyptians were insane with like what they understood about sound and frequency and vibration. And I was studying the King Khufu pyramid, which is the pyramid of the sun, and figured out a frequency that I could tune to that they tuned in that was said to be the frequency of the soul. Figured out how to translate that to a guitar. And the minute that I like translated that to the guitar and then started playing, this song just like fell out of my fingertips. And it's like chords and things I've never played before. So it was like a gift from the other side.
I'm going to mute myself so that way you can not get any weird from here. So go ahead.
Awesome. Here we are.
Bravo. That was
Woohoo!
absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you. Could you hear it right? All right.
Yeah, it came out really good, actually.
Okay, cool.
That was
Good to
so
hear.
beautiful.
Thank you.
Explain how it makes you feel when you're moving energy in that way.
Weightless. I always say it feels like flying, especially when I'm like on a stage. You can probably maybe see in the background. So this is my studio, obviously, but way in the back up here, I think you can see I have a full stack amplifier, and when you have that speaker behind you and like just blasting air, especially in larger like venues and stuff like that, every time I strum that guitar, like it doesn't matter how gentle I hit it, like that air is getting pushed behind me. It almost feels like I can just lay into the sound. So when I shut my eyes and I channel, I actually am painting the inside of like my mind, which comes back to my near-death experience that I had in life, where I went into the shining darkness when I actually left my body in a motorcycle crash. Nothing existed. Ego didn't exist. I had no memories. I had no sense of self. I was just aware of that I was vibrating. Like I was just pure thought. And then through being aware of that vibration and seeing like the shimmering darkness, eventually it felt like I sat in like the architect's seat and like watched the universe unfold itself. Like watched like how vibration like creates sound and color, and then that creates like just everything that comes from it, like sacred geometry and how that forms into the 3D world. And it felt like I was flying through a flip book of time and went through everything that ever had consciousness, like super fast, and then shot back in my body, like in the white light, and was running after a motorcycle. So the feeling of making music is like I'm facing that, like it's like stepping into the abyss and jumping into like that darkness and flying and not knowing where I'm going, but just like doing it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really powerful.
That is very powerful. So, with your near-death experience, could you walk us through what happened that day?
Yeah, actually, so that was kind of like the turning point of like my real divine encounter in life, which is kind of what this is all about. So I was in college and I had a motorcycle. It was a crotch rocket. And at the time, this crotch rocket that I bought, it ended up being stolen. I didn't steal it, but the guy that sold it to me stole it. And I had spent my only $3,000 as an 18-year-old that I had in my wallet on that bike because I really wanted it. Like, so I realized, I was like, okay, like I can't go sell this now, so I got to ride it. Like, and through understanding that, I also understood that I couldn't stop for cops. So I was kind of a rebel for a couple years. So through having that mindset, that bad boy mentality of like, okay, no cop, no stop. I learned how to do wheelies and stuff, and the feeling of and I guess this is my Scorpio nature. We love to be on the edge of death. Through learning how to operate a machine with that much power, knowing that it could kill me, but learning how to like almost tame it like a horse. It would feel like when I popped that front tire up, I was like riding like a horse of like death down the highway. It was awesome. You know, like 100 something miles per hour through like in between trucks and stuff. I don't do that anymore. I don't ride motorcycles really at this point. I sold my most recent one, but the day that I wrecked, I had woke up and growing up, I always heard the whole like 11:11 make a wish thing. Woke up and it was the last day of the riding season for me. I was gonna go for one more ride the bike to Ohio, and then like put it away for the winter. So I was like, all right, this is like my final hoorah. So in a weird way, it was my final hoorah. So I saw 11:11 on the clock when I got to the gas station. Actually, like rewind like about an hour. When I was getting ready to go out, something told me to put on extra clothes and to actually wear my racing suit that I had that day. I had a full leather like racing outfit with like knee pucks for like knee dragging that I would never wear because it was just hot like to wear. But something like begged me in my mind, like intuition, to wear it that day, and I just happened to do it. It was like I had this feeling that I had to like wear that, and I put extra layers of clothes on underneath, and then put a helmet in my backpack as well, an extra helmet. I was going to go pick up a friend in Ohio and take her for a ride. And usually I would strap the helmet to the back of my bike, but this ended up being one of the things that like saved my life because my helmet was cracked in the back. And if it would have hit the ground when I hit it, like my helmet would have split open. So I remember going to the gas station and I put ethanol-free gas in the tank. And this is when I saw 11:11 on my clock. I saw the time was 11:11. I was like, oh, 11:11, make a wish. And then I filled up my gas tank and it was $11.11 exactly. And I was like, okay. I was like, that's kind of weird, but like just laughing to myself about it. But at the time, didn't really like understand it. I was kind of unaware. Like I was in my ego, like just excited to like ride. So I wasn't spiritually thinking about the things happening, but it was enough that like little pinpoint things that happened just before my near death experience where when I came back, I remembered and I was like, whoa, like, so I remember going down this road and seeing this sign that said Gold Star anime. It was like a Gold Star, like it was like a little anime, like cartoon, just like figurine, like kind of shop thing. And I looked up and I saw this Gold Star, and I remember blinking and then having this feeling to pop a wheelie. So I pulled in the clutch, ran the throttle, popped it, and as I'm pulling the bike up, I saw 11 miles per hour on my dash because it was like I was in first gear going down like a road, like real slow, cars behind me, and then I see a car pulling out. Coming up to in this intersection as I'm going down the road where they had a stop sign probably about 30 yards away from me off to the left, which is weird because like it was in my like left side. Like I almost like, I didn't really see it at first, but I felt the energy of it. Like, cause this, my ear, the way I hear it almost feels like a radar. Like I'm like picking up on signals wherever I turn. And I just picked up on that frequency and looked, and this car decided to pull out in front of me. And I freaked out. Instead of hitting my brake, I actually slapped the throttle and pulled the bike back, and just remember seeing the sky and then blacking out. Flipped the bike on myself, slid about 100 yards on my back. Supposedly, I slid under a car in the oncoming lane, or like a large truck that was sitting high up, which is weird because like you would have thought that with the helmet being in my bag, it kind of like lifted me up, but it was enough to where like I just probably missed under it. But this helmet in my bag, like weirdly enough, didn't break, but it kept my back and my head off the ground enough to where like, because I was sliding, I went down pretty hard. If I didn't have that helmet in my backpack, my helmet would have cracked open and I would have just been like meat on the pavement.
Wow.
And then I already explained kind of what I saw and what I felt on the other side. Didn't know where I was or what it was, and I never had any memory or recollection. I was just there. I was always there. It was like going to like the purest form of thought, as like consciousness. It was so weird. And then I like watched the universe like create itself through like understanding that thought and dissecting it, only to like go see that white light, feeling like I flew through every body and thing that ever existed, and then was running after a motorcycle. So I slid about 100 yards, and as I was sliding, the person that stopped behind me said I just jumped up out of nowhere after being like a rag doll and started running. And I remember coming back to consciousness, not knowing who I was in the moment, like because the adrenaline or what happened. And I just saw this dark figure, almost looked like the Grim Reaper, like a spiritual energy around my bike as it was sliding. And there was oil on the road, and the oil was like on fire. And the bike had come to a stop, and I'm running after the bike and just knew I had to pick it up. And those things weigh like 600 pounds, and I'm a pretty small guy. I mean, I'm tall, but I was like, at the time, I wasn't like crazy strong. And I picked it up like nothing, pulled it off the side of the road. And I had enough memory of who I was and what was going on, just knowing like it was like primal of like that energy of outside of my ego, like I knew like, okay, like the cops can't show up. I'm going to get in trouble, blah, blah, and that. I just had those basic instincts of like, get this thing off the road and move. This guy stopped. This is the super weird part. This old dude stopped and walked up to me. He got out of his car to make sure I was okay when I was on the side of the road. Luckily, I didn't get all scraped up. My elbow, like it ripped the road ripped through the elbow, and it was like I could see my bone. But I didn't go to the hospital or anything. I just went to the school nurse and just dealt with it. But so this guy pulls over, this old dude, and he's like, it was like just your typical like weird wizard story where like some person shows up, and there's like had like a beard, stops to make sure I'm okay. And it took him about he parked about 20 feet away from where I was. So it took him about like 10 to 15 seconds to like walk over to me with his cane. And he was like, "Hey, are you all right? Do you need to call cops? Blah, blah, this and that." I was like, "No, I'm good. I'm fine. Like, I'm okay. Like, I'm just shook up. Just trying to like ground myself." And he was like, "Okay, I'll be right back." And then I turn around like to look at my bike real quick and like try to find my phone because I'm still like finding my footing. And within like 3 seconds, so this guy couldn't have been to his car already. Like it took him about 10 to 15 seconds to walk to me. And within 2 seconds of turning, I went to turn around and say something. He was gone. Somebody else was pulling over. And I was like, "Where'd that guy?" I asked this dude because he asked me the same questions, and it was this younger guy. And I asked him like, where'd that dude go? He was like, "Nobody stopped. I'm the first person that stopped." And that was like, never figured out who or what it was, but it was definitely some type of spirit guide or something like that. When death was there, because I saw like literally like that figure of like the Grim Reaper around my bike, and then it disappeared as I was running towards it. And it was just super trippy. So over the years, like getting into like just psychedelia and the other realm of reality and studying the occult and everything, trying to understand what that experience was. Because actually that motorcycle happened because of a hex that was put on me by my ex-girlfriend who was in a coven. She had put a hex on me a week before saying that I was going to die in a motorcycle crash.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, so that's why I got into the occult side of things, because I was like, there's something to this. I was like, weirdly enough. So
well, that would have to be for a whole nother story for a whole entire other time.
Absolutely, because it's a whole different ball game of information.
And we have to come off in like 2 minutes. So
word.
Yeah. So if we want a part 2 to that story, you'll just have to come back. But everyone, make sure you guys are liking, subscribing, following if you want more supernatural content like this. Luka, thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate all your energy and beautiful. I feel like this time just kind of just disappeared. I don't know what happened to it.
It did, yeah.
But thank you so much for being here. Is there anything in your heart in the next 30 seconds that you want to share with the audience? Maybe like a send-off message or something you needed to hear at that point in your journey?
Don't let anyone in your life tell you that you can't achieve your dreams, and that thing that you're afraid to do is the thing that you're meant to do. And be inspired by others. And when you find moments in life where you are losing that light and that fire, look within yourself. Everyone has a candle that they can hold. And if you learn how to like ignite your own candle, then you can be a spark that ignites the world around you. Because we're all just walking through the darkness and trying to figure out what this life really is and what's going on. So that is my message to you. And if you like music, check out my music as well. I put a lot of time and energy and effort into it.
Where are we checking out your music at?
It's called Nathara is my band. And you can check it out on Spotify, iTunes. If you check us out on Instagram or Facebook, it's Nathara_official. And all of our links to our music are on there. We're kind of a newer band, but we're just like really starting to make waves right now. And if you follow me at Luka the Light 777 on TikTok or Instagram, then you can also find the links on those pages and just keep up with my story and what's going on with me.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Luka, for being
Thank
here.
you.
I'm going to put you back in the green room, and so much love, so much love.
Likewise,
right.
Back to everybody.
All right, ladies and gents, let's go ahead, and you guys already know. What are my final thoughts on Luka's story? Let's wrap this episode up con mucho amor. Do you or someone you know experience something supernatural that has left a positive impact on yourself or the lives of others? Want to share your story on our show? Please email Divine Encounters at e360tv rewire.com. And together, let's create divine experiences. And now, the Oracle's final thoughts con mucho amor. I'm going to say that my final thoughts for this story are, they kind of remind me of the tarot card of strength, the woman and the lion. Maybe the deepest thorn in our side can be sharpened into the strongest weapon that we yield. What are your thoughts on that? I hope you go forward and encounter more, because I dare you. And above all else, may you go in love, light, and wisdom to know thyself, love thyself, and remember the divine always has your back. Ciao!
Everything is wrong, you feel like it's your fault. Just remember, I will be there for you, baby. Remember,